The camera wasn't supposed to be there, and what it recorded was never meant to be seen. But once he pressed play, his life would never be the same. He was just an average man, living in an ordinary house, with a woman he thought he knew. A steady job, quiet nights, the same bed they'd shared for almost a decade. But behind the wallpaper of normal life was a secret he never saw coming. Because hidden above their bed, tucked behind what looked like a smoke detector, was a camera. A camera that captured everything. What Daniel Brooks found on that footage didn't just expose betrayal, it detonated his entire world. In less than 72 hours, he would go from husband to suspect, from a loving home to a cold, concrete cell, and eventually to a hospital bed, alone and sedated, muttering the same words over and over. She knew. They planned this. No one believed me. How do you recover after watching everything you believed in shatter in front of you? This is a chilling case of Daniel Brooks and the camera that destroyed his life. Daniel Brooks was the kind of man who kept to himself. At 34, he'd built a modest life in a small North Carolina town, working long days as an HVAC technician. He wasn't flashy, didn't care for social media, and believed in the simple things: cold beer, warm meals, and loyalty. Especially loyalty. His wife, Samantha, was 32, a local high school English teacher. She was sharp, well-spoken, and always had a book in her bag. The two had been married for just over 10 years. High school sweethearts turned suburban partners, building a life that, from the outside, looked solid. They'd bought their home together after years of saving, even though the mortgage payments were tight. Lately, they'd started talking seriously about having kids. It felt like the right time: stable jobs, decent insurance, enough love to share. But something had changed. It was subtle at first. Samantha started staying up later than usual, sitting on the couch after dinner, her face lit by the glow of her phone. She laughed at things Daniel wasn't part of. When he asked what she was watching, she'd brush it off, just a video from school. Then came the locked phone, the long showers with the door closed, the new passwords, and those drives. She'd started taking them on Saturday afternoons, said she needed to clear her head or get some grading done at a coffee shop across town. But she always came back with the same vague answers and the same distant look in her eyes. Daniel didn't want to jump to conclusions. He trusted her, but a quiet seed of doubt had been planted, and it was beginning to grow roots. Daniel tried to ignore the gut feeling. He really did. But every smile Samantha gave him started to feel forced, like a performance. Every excuse felt rehearsed. He began replaying conversations in his head, analyzing the way she looked at her phone, the way she stopped kissing him goodnight. That seed of doubt? It was blooming into full-blown suspicion. He confided in the only person he trusted completely, his best friend, Eli Monroe. Eli had been like a brother to him since college, the kind of guy you call at 2 a.m. and know he'd show up. When Daniel laid it all out, Samantha's late nights, the long drives, the weird energy, Eli didn't hesitate. "Bro, she's hiding something. You need to find out what's really going on. Install a camera. Just one. Just in the bedroom. Catch her slipping." But Daniel couldn't do it. He didn't want to become that guy. The kind who spies on his wife, digging through her privacy like a stranger. He still held on to the belief that maybe this was all in his head. That maybe things would go back to normal if they just had one good conversation. Then, one evening, a week after returning from a 2-day work trip out of town, Daniel noticed something odd in the corner of their bedroom ceiling. The smoke detector looked newer, sleeker, like it had just been replaced. He didn't remember it looking like that before. He climbed up to take a closer look. That's when he saw it, a tiny, pinhole-sized lens embedded in the plastic. It was a camera. His heart sank. He hadn't installed it. He never even mentioned it. When he asked Samantha about it, her answer came too quickly. "Oh, that? It's part of a home security package I added last month. You're always saying we need better protection. Remember?" But he didn't remember. And she'd never mentioned spending money on cameras, especially not one hidden in the bedroom. Something wasn't right. And Daniel's world was about to be shattered by what that camera had seen. Daniel couldn't sleep that night. He lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, his mind buzzing with questions. That camera had been watching them, watching him, for who knows how long. He could hear Samantha's steady breathing beside him, peaceful and unaware, or maybe not unaware at all. At 2:17 a.m., he got up, quietly slipped out of bed, and climbed back up to the smoke detector. His hands were shaking. He popped open the casing, slid out the tiny SD card, and went to his garage workspace where he kept his old laptop. The light from the screen felt like a spotlight as he plugged it in, heart pounding against his ribs. The files were there, dozens of them, dates and times, some from weeks ago, others from just a few nights earlier. With trembling fingers, he clicked on the most recent one, and that's when his world came crashing down. There she was, Samantha, walking into the bedroom, wearing the robe he'd bought her for their anniversary. She wasn't alone. A man followed her in, laughing. At first, Daniel couldn't see his face, but then the man turned toward the camera. It was Eli, his best friend. Daniel watched in frozen horror as the two embraced, kissed, and collapsed onto the bed they once shared. There was no hesitation, no guilt, just passion and familiarity, like it wasn't the first time, like it had been happening for a long, long time. Then came the part that hit harder than any betrayal, the laughter. As they lay tangled in each other's arms, they started talking about him, about Daniel. "He still thinks I'm grading papers during those long drives," Samantha said with a smirk. "The guy's clueless," Eli replied, chuckling. "If he finds out, he'll probably blame himself." They laughed again, at Daniel, in his own bed, on his own camera. And in that moment, the man Daniel Brooks used to be, died. Daniel didn't sleep at all that night. After watching the footage, he just sat there, staring at the paused frame of Samantha and Eli laughing in his bed. His body felt numb, like his mind had left it behind. He wanted to scream, to drive to Eli's house and knock his teeth in. He wanted to wake Samantha up and demand the truth. But something told him not to. Instead, he opened another file, and another, and another. What started as one moment of betrayal quickly snowballed into a sickening timeline. The footage went back months, possibly longer. Different angles, different nights. Sometimes while Daniel was working late, other times when he was sleeping in the other room after a long shift. It wasn't just the affair, it was the planning. One clip made Daniel's blood run cold. Samantha was pacing the bedroom in leggings and a tank top, holding a glass of wine, her voice low and calculated. "Once we get the house in my name, he's out. He doesn't even suspect a thing." And Eli's voice came from off-screen, calm and casual, like they were discussing weekend plans. "We'll handle it. No one's going to believe him anyway." Daniel paused the video and just stared. "No one's going to believe him anyway." That line echoed in his skull like a war drum. This wasn't just cheating, it was something else. Something coordinated. Something that felt like a setup. So he did the only thing he could do. He started documenting everything. He copied the videos, backed them up, saved them to hidden folders, external drives, and even emailed a few files to himself from an anonymous burner account he created that night. Because if Samantha and Eli were planning to destroy him, he needed to be ready. Daniel lasted 5 more days. 5 days of pretending, of eating dinner with a woman who was secretly plotting to erase him. 5 days of watching Eli show up casually at their home like nothing was happening. 5 days of gut-wrenching silence, collecting evidence and trying to stay sane. But on the 6th day, he broke. It happened after Samantha kissed him goodbye on her way to yoga. She smiled like nothing was wrong, like she wasn't stabbing him in the back with every step. When she came home that evening, Daniel was waiting at the kitchen table with his laptop open. No words, just the footage playing. The moment her face appeared on the screen, tangled in bedsheets with Eli, the color drained from her skin. She froze, then slowly sat down, silent, as the laughter and betrayal spilled from the speakers. For a second, Daniel saw something crack behind her eyes. A flash of guilt, maybe even fear, but it didn't last. Suddenly, Samantha's expression twisted into something colder. She slammed the laptop shut and stood up, pointing a finger at Daniel. "You've been spying on me," she yelled, her voice shaking, not with fear, but fury. "You installed a hidden camera in our bedroom. You're sick." Daniel tried to respond, but she was already dialing. "My husband's been secretly recording me," she cried into the phone. "He's unstable. He's been acting paranoid and threatening. I'm scared of what he might do." Within 20 minutes, the police were at their door. Samantha greeted them at the porch in tears, holding her phone in a carefully rehearsed story. She showed them the camera, claimed Daniel had been surveilling her for months. She painted herself as a terrified wife of a man losing his mind. And Daniel, desperate, shaking, exhausted, tried to explain. But his words sounded wild. His eyes looked tired. The evidence he had suddenly looked like motive. They cuffed him in his own driveway. And just like that, the trap closed. He spent 2 nights in a cold, fluorescent-lit cell, replaying every moment of his marriage like a horror film on loop. The guards barely spoke to him. Other inmates whispered. And when he finally walked out on bail, blinking against the morning sun, it was into a world that no longer saw him as a man, only a headline. The investigation was ongoing, but the damage was already done. Rumors spread fast in a small town, faster than facts. Daniel had been a quiet, hard-working vac tech. Now, he was the creep who spied on his wife. Parents pulled their kids away from him at the grocery store. Old clients canceled appointments. Even people he'd known for years avoided eye contact. Samantha wasted no time. Within a week, she filed for divorce. The paperwork hit Daniel like a punch to the gut, but it got worse. She also filed for a restraining order, claiming she feared for her safety and alleging emotional instability. With the legal restrictions in place, Daniel couldn't even step near the house he had paid for, renovated, and built his future in. And then came the final twist of the knife. Eli moved in. The same man who used to drink beers with Daniel on Sunday afternoons was now sleeping in his bed, parking in his driveway, and walking around in his clothes. Neighbors noticed, but no one said a word. Daniel watched it all from a distance, helpless, the walls of his life closing in. Everything he loved, his marriage, his home, his reputation, was gone. And the worst part? No one believed him. Now living out of a dingy motel off the highway, Daniel was a ghost of the man he used to be. He hadn't shaved in days. The mirror in the bathroom stared back at him with hollow eyes and a gaunt face that didn't feel like his anymore. His world had collapsed in less than a month, and all he had left was a storage box of clothes, a busted laptop, and the bitter taste of betrayal. But then he remembered the backup hard drive. He had stored it months ago in the garage crawl space, a habit from his days of doing freelance tech work. Quietly, while Samantha and Eli were out, Daniel returned to his old home one last time, sneaking around the back and prying up the loose panel behind the shed. The drive was still there, wrapped in plastic. Back at the motel, he plugged it into his laptop. There was one file he hadn't seen before, dated the week before he discovered the camera. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Eli, alone, creeping into Daniel's bedroom. He rifled through drawers, moved quietly but with purpose. Then he climbed up to the smoke detector and mounted something inside, the camera. And just before leaving, Eli looked over his shoulder and whispered, barely audible, "Let's get this done before he finds out. This footage will bury him." Daniel froze. He finally had it. Proof. Real, undeniable evidence. He rushed to the police station, shaking, clutching the drive like it was a lifeline. But it was too late. The detective on duty barely looked up. The investigation was closed. Samantha had already filed for full ownership of the home, citing emotional and mental trauma. Daniel's employer, concerned about the public backlash and ongoing legal concerns, let him go. His name was poisoned. His truth didn't matter anymore. The last scene is Daniel, sitting alone in his old pickup truck, parked a few houses down from what used to be his home. The sun was setting. Laughter spilled from porches. Eli and Samantha stepped out, arms around each other, smiling like a couple in a commercial. Daniel watched silently, fingers trembling on the laptop touchpad. He hovered over the final video, his last weapon, the truth. Then he deleted it, not out of forgiveness, but because it didn't matter. No one ever believed him. The footage was real. The betrayal was real. But justice, that never showed up. Daniel had spent every waking moment hoping the truth would set him free, but instead, it buried him deeper. The system failed him. His friends, his wife, his life, all of it was gone. All he had left was the truth. But truth, sometimes, isn't enough to save you. Sometimes, it's what destroys you. Thanks for watching. If you found this story chilling, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.